the life style that most people have is 100% not better, and in fact would have been better, 50 years ago or even 100 years ago. And I'll say that I think that the way that people view this modern society is almost the way you'd view an addiction. Do you think your life would be better or worse if you didn't have Netflix? Do you think your life would be better or worse if you didn't have social media? Do you think your life would be better or worse if you had like good whole foods and not processed garbage? Most of them would answer yes to all three of those questions, yet they have the ability to stop that at any time, and they don't, right? And so you have this it's almost a Stockholm syndrome, that they're sort of unable to escape the society that is actually not good for them. And this is purely anecdotal, but I mean, talk to old people. I mean, old people, you'd be surprised what they say. Ask them, would you rather grow up in 2020 or grow up in the same childhood that you had, 1930, 1940? A lot of them say 1940, right? And that's obviously an anecdotal point, but obviously that throws a wrench to the idea that this is a universally better society and people are happier. And another thing to go at that point is, we touched on this earlier, but look at skyrocketing rates of depression. I mean, even before the COVID pandemic, you're looking at upwards of 10% of the population is on antidepressants or diagnosed with depression. I mean, that's absurd. I mean, 1 in 10 people actually want to kill themselves and escape this world. I mean, that's pretty pathetic. And this is where we're headed towards. I mean, look at these things that are causing the depression issues. A lot of it is the phones, the social media, it's the sedentary lifestyle, it's not having any tangible goals, not actually providing for yourself. And these are all things that could be remedied through a very radical anti-technological solution, but most people are unwilling to go that far.
So I think the biggest thing that I'd like to start by addressing is kind of the claim that like the anecdotal claim that old people would rather, they'd rather start where they started and end where they are than they would, start now and go forward. I'm only 19. I'm not going to say I'm old, but I would still choose to rather be born in, 2002 than be born in 2020. But I don't know if that's necessarily because I think technology is worse. I think that's just more of an issue of I think that it's just because we're accustomed to what we're accustomed to. It doesn't mean that my material conditions aren't inherently better. It just means that I'm, as I said, there's this guttural fear of change that we see. And I think this fear of change applies especially to older generations. Not to mention, if you also ask them, most of them aren't going to say smartphones. Most of them are going to say, socioeconomic issues. They're going to say, as you said, degeneracy. They're going to look at that and they're going to be like, that's the reason I don't want to be around today. I don't want to be around with cancel culture. I don't want to be around where I can't say a joke and get in trouble. And I think those are legitimate issues. And I think those are definitely things that make society look worse. But I think these social issues don't stem from technology. I think there's definitely technological societies that are conservative socially. So I don't necessarily see technology as like the hindrance to, being conservative. But on top of...
What societies do you think are socially conservative that are technologically advanced, just out of curiosity?
Djibouti, a nation that, they literally have like Maseratis collecting dust on the sides of streets, but at the same time, they still follow kind of Sharia law.
Okay. I just wanted to have that point clarified for me. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And so, we see societies, as I said, like Djibouti, where they still have conservatism, social conservatism, and they're still technologically moving forward. On top of that, you make this argument, people would say they're better without Netflix, they're better without social media. But I think that's also just because, I would say I'm probably better off if I didn't have my car, but I, essentially would do better with my car. That's just how people kind of complain about, life around them. And this complaining is probably not new to technology. It's just people, kind of bad-mouthing their situation because people want to complain. It gives them an emotional release. But at the same point, even if people, I think a big issue so much isn't technology itself, but how we use technology. For example, I would definitely say that Netflix turns out a bunch of liberal crap media that doesn't feed the soul or any kind of institutional meaning to self. I would agree that Netflix turns that out. I would agree social media turns out, influencers who just take pictures of themselves next to products that are paying them. I would definitely think this, the socio-cultural movement is definitely not feeding the soul for humanity. But that doesn't mean that that's technology's fault. There's no reason we can't use technology to essentially be able to spread the great works, be able to spread philosophy, be able to spread arguments like this. Essentially, I came to this from Discord to social media.